So, congratulations for coming here. In some measure, it shows Vairagya also. Yeah. Intense desire to know the self, mumukshutvam. So you are here. Match is temporary. It keeps happening.
I like designing.
I like. So they can take it over. So the three bodies we have been seeing and two states we saw. Gross body, subtle body and causal body. Now this chart which is here, this is called as the BMI chart. Gurudev made this chart and very helpful it is to understand Vedanta. In this the B stands for the body. So the gross body that we learnt about is the alphabet B, made up of 5 elements, got because of the karmas of the past, goes through 6 modifications, through which we experience everything in this world. Subtle body is the M and I together. And there are 17 elements of subtle body, so 5 senses of knowledge, 5 senses of action, 5 pranas, 1 mind and 1 intellect. These 17 elements made up of subtle 5 elements, and it is the experiencer. Difference between mind and intellect. Mind is the seat of emotions, intellect is the seat of thoughts. And remember, this difference is created only because of, for the sake of study. It's not there are 2 different things which are there. Subtle body is one, and for the purpose of study and understanding we have created a division between emotion and thoughts. Otherwise they are part of the same subtle body. And also the desires. So desire, thoughts, emotion, they all are experienced by the subtle body. The cause of both these bodies is called as the causal body, and that is indicated by the alphabet V, vasanas. So we saw the causal body is actually ignorance plus vasanas. And ignorance is of the self. That self or my true nature is indicated by Om. So this ignorance, when it is there, we see that the ignorance is common to all of us. So in Tattvabodh, we saw in causal body the description of ignorance. It is common to everybody, it is homogeneous, it is beginningless. And it is this ignorance which is the cause of my feeling incomplete, because when I don't know that my nature is completeness and I identify with the body and then I feel incomplete, and then there are impressions. So impressions are different for every one of us. Now one interesting thing here to understand is that in the Tattvabodh, Vasana has not been elaborated anywhere. And in this BMI chart, ignorance has not been indicated. So let us make our understanding complete. From Tattvabodh we will understand about the ignorance part. We already saw that how not knowing the self creates all the other implications. Now the vasanas in each of us are different. The impressions are different. These impressions are collected because of our actions. Whenever we act, a result will be external result, which will be experienced at the body, mind, intellect level, and there will also be a subtle impression which will be created. So first Sunday when you came here for Tattvabodh class, you came because of an impression earlier that you want to learn, and when you came on the Sunday, the impression got created for the class on Sunday. So then you again came on the next Sunday, then the next one, and as a result of that you are sitting here today. Because continuously that impression is formed which leads me to action. So repeated impression is called as a vasana. First impression or very mild impression is called as samskar. Samskar means just an impression. When that gets strengthened, that is called as a vasana. In samskar, the impression is not so strong that it will lead me to action. But in a vasana, that is a very strong impression. So vasana happens by repeated impressions getting formed. In more simpler terms, it is like a habit. But technically, it is more deeper than a habit. But just to understand that concept, that repeatedly if you do something, it becomes a... So repeated impressions create a track. The thoughts and desires will flow only in that track. In neuroscience, they call this as pathways, which is what Gurudev also used actually long back. He used the same word, that the mind, there are pathways which are created. And today neuroscience uses the same word, pathways. That thoughts, when you keep emphasizing the same type of thought, it creates pathways. And specific neurons will get connected. And then the thoughts, desires, emotions, they flow in the same track. That's how compulsive behavior also happens. Now these vasanas which are there, created by repeated impressions, each of us have different impression because we have what we call purusharth. So we can choose what to do. And what we do influences our impressions. And what impressions we have influences our actions. So they affect each other, complementary to each other. Sometimes there is no past impression, a new impression is created.
I didn't understand.
I am explaining. Sometimes we did not, like first time you listen about spirituality, there is no impression, let us say. But in the present moment there is a free will. So you decide for some factors that okay, my friend is going, so I will go. Or I've heard a lot about the Gita, so let me explore. Some reason because of which you exercise that choice, okay, let me try. That's the time when the first impression about that spiritual knowledge is created. If you like it, you continue to go, then the repeated impression happens, then the mind starts flowing in that channel. This applies for everything. You try a pizza, you try a coffee, you try a relationship, you try a new business, everywhere. Our impressions influence our choices, and our choices further strengthen our impressions. And which is a beginning, which is a cause of what is not very easy to explain. Sometimes it is an impression. Already I have an impression to be very social, let us say. That impression is there, so that affects my temperament and I am very social in my life. Or it may also be that I am put into such environments where I slowly open up and I become social. Now, sometimes it is possible to explain how what happened, sometimes it is not possible to explain that why there is an impression of the past. But important thing is to understand that impression can create action. Action further strengthens the impression. If the impression is very weak, it will just come as a thought and it will disappear. But if it is strong, it will manifest into action. So how does the impression or a vasana manifest into action? So the vasana which we have, which is in the causal body, expresses in the intellect as a desire. More the vasana, more the desires. The desires manifest in the mind as thoughts and feelings. And if you sustain the thought and feeling, it will manifest at the body level as action. So vasana creates a desire in the intellect. Desire creates thoughts and feelings in the mind. Mind creates the action. The impulse for action comes from the mind. So if you have spiritual vasana, you have the desire for the spiritual knowledge, you sustain the thought in the mind. The thought may be contrary also, like should I go, should I not go? YouTube I can see the recording, but live match, So the mind keeps on debating it. And then finally you decide, no, I am going or I am not going. Depending on what is your strong vasana at that point in time or whatever other factors you may use. So if thought is sustained, whichever thought you sustain, it will manifest that way in the action. So if you say, yes, I will go, then you will be here. If that thought is sustained, you are here. If that thought is not sustained, then you may not be here. So vasana creates desire, desire creates emotions and thoughts create action. These actions will give a result. So the result is external in terms of, so you came here, you feel inspired or you feel perspired, whatever it is, that will create further impression. Next time, no? Next Sunday is India-South Africa match. I am not going to come. Maybe, your choice. Or you say, no, it is worth it because India is something they are doing, we don't know. Better not miss Tattvabodh for it. You may land here, who knows. So the idea is that result will create a further impression which will further affect my desire, thoughts, action, everything. This cycle goes on in our life. So causal body, subtle body, gross body, again causal body. This keeps going round, round, round. So in that chart which you have, that ignorance cycle, from tendency to desire, to thoughts and emotions, to action, result, again tendency. This cycle goes on. Now this is the mechanism of our action, and this is actually called the cycle of karma. Karma is not just being born. Karma is this cycle, from tendency to tendency, again and again. To exhaust certain tendencies, we come into this form. While going through those tendencies, we are further creating new impressions, so again, new desires. So this keeps going. So this is one aspect to understand. Now, in spirituality, once I understand this concept of vasana, that vasana, the quality of my vasana and the quantity of my vasana, they create the force in my personality. So if my predominant vasana quality is tamasic, then my desires are like that, for indulgence, for laziness, for lethargy. My thoughts are like that, my actions are like that. My whole life is like that. If my predominant vasanas are rajasic, then I am very ambitious, a go-getter, and achieving things and getting attached and so many of these. My predominant vasanas are sattvic, then calmness, quietude, seeking knowledge, living in balance. So then my life will be determined by that. So my quality of vasana determines my nature of my personality, that how I am. And not only I as a personality in my life, but even my individual choices are affected by my quality. If I am in a very rajasic mood, my choice will be like that. Try eating fresh fruits and salads when you are feeling hunger pangs. Try. For some it is easy, for many it is not. When a hunger pang is happening, that time you need something spicy, oily, fried, That time you give salad, more rajoguna will increase. One gets more angry. You give them lace, okay, and it will eat. Because that momentary choice is also because of the rajoguna. And even the most rajasic person sometimes is in very nice sattvic moments, quiet moments. So it's not only whole life as such, but even the momentary choices. How I make a choice depends on my vasana, which is expressing as desire and thoughts. So one is the quality of vasana. Second is the quantity of vasana. More the quantity of vasana, more desires. More desires means many thoughts which means very disturbed mind, which means efficiency will be low. So lesser the vasanas, lesser the desires, quieter the mind and intellect, more easy to meditate. So in Vedanta, we always say that our first step in spirituality is to reduce the vasana pressure, which means to do these two things. Reduce the quantity of vasanas and improve the quality to become sattvic. Through my self-effort, I have to do that, because by nature, generally, one is rajasic and tamasic predominantly. No sadhana is required to be rajasic and tamasic. That's easy. That's the way we are, because the senses are extrovert. And we've been living through animal lives extrovertedly for many, many lives. So that tendency is there in us to look outside. To turn that personality within is not very easy. That's where self-effort is required. So when I live in self-control, when I learn to discipline myself, when I learn not to act according to my likes and dislikes, all those qualifications that you saw earlier, no? Sadhan Chatushtaya. If I continue to live in that way and inculcate those qualities, I am slowly transforming my personality. So the vasana becomes more and more sattvic, and the vasana pressure also will reduce. Because many things which are not required, I will let go. So the first step in Vedanta is this, to reduce the vasana pressure, where I should not be feeling restless when I sit quietly, or when I study, when I am with people. That emptiness, restlessness, that should reduce a lot. One more important point about vasana is unmanifest. One cannot know what is one's vasana till it manifests as a desire in the buddhi. Only when it manifests as a desire in the intellect do I even understand, oh, I have this type of vasana. Till then one doesn't know. That's why it is important to be alert about one's own desires and not to just give in to the desire. I have a desire, and many times we will not know that we have these type of desires in our mind and intellect. Sometimes the thoughts that come, especially when we sit for meditation. Even in the waking state, such type of thoughts may not come sometimes, which come up in meditation. Some memory of 20 years ago, something happened, will come up, which you may not even consciously think in the waking state, but it will come. Or some desire. One goes through different phases in one's life. As one does sadhana, whatever is there in the mind deeply, it will start surfacing slowly. So suddenly one may feel very tempted to eat fried food. Suddenly there may be phases where one feels very, rajasic and ambitious, all that. This is not to scare all of us, but this is to understand that till they don't manifest as thoughts and desires, we have no idea that these kind of vasanas we have. Like I had no idea that I will become a monk. In my farthest remote possibility was not there. But then slowly they start manifesting, then one understands, and then one becomes alert and aware, and then slowly the channelizing happens accordingly. Then you decide. So when the desire manifests in the buddhi, we have that free will. Whether I go with that or I don't go with that. That's the alertness one has to cultivate. Generally we are victims of our desires. Whatever desire comes, I flow with it. Once I become alert, the purpose of studying all this is not theoretical. Please, from the first day we have been saying, Vedanta is very practical. If I understand this, the mechanism of how causal body functions, subtle body and gross body, I learn to take charge of my life. That when a desire arises, I become alert, this is the type of vasana that I have. Should I express or not express? I give you one example. Now this concept of vasana being unmanifest and then manifesting as desire, then thoughts and then actions and then the result which further creates vasana, this we know in Vedanta. There was one youngster, he asked Gurudev, that Swamiji, in this BMI chart of yours, there is an alphabet called V, and that is vasana. I don't understand what is this vasana. Can you please explain? And a young person is asking. So Gurudev in his witty style, he will give a customized answer to the person who is there. So he looked at him and he said, so young man, if there is a woman who is going on the road and she is wearing such clothes that it is very tempting to you, that you feel like whistling, that tendency in you because of which you feel like whistling, that is called as a vasana. And it is up to you whether you decide to actually whistle or let go of that tendency. So it is like that. At every moment we have that choice. That Purushartha comes into play at that point. That when the desire manifests in my head, should I go with it or not go with it? If I let it go, it will pass. Because it's just an impression manifesting as a desire. And if I don't support that, it will go. But the problem is if that impression is very strong, it will manifest as a desire where 2-3 times if I let go also it persists, then I feel, no, I just need to do this. If I am very clear that I don't need to, even if it comes 20 times, I should just have the same stand. It's okay. Let it go. It will go.
But is it not suppression, Swami?
No. If you have understood clearly that why this is not required, it is not suppression. If you have not understood clearly, then it will be suppression. If just by willpower, if I am trying to push it down, it will be suppression. And if I have understood very clearly that why certain indulgence is not good for me, like even simpler example, like smoking is not good. If I understood very clearly, I may have a habit of the past and that impulse may be there in the mind that, smoke. But if I have understood very, very clearly, I will sublimate it. I will say this is not required. I let it pass. If you need to explain yourself logical reasoning for it again and again, bring that to the mind. You may have different reasonings for different methods for different times. Because same thing may not work all the time. But if I have understood very clearly, then I let it go. Gurudev was like that. That's the power of buddhi actually. People who live at the intellectual level, that's the power to transform. He used to smoke. And even when he went to study at Uttarkashi with his Guru Tapovan Maharaj, he used to smoke. He went and found in Uttarkashi one small tea shop and that guy used to smuggle bidi and give him. And he would smoke. Complained to Tapovan Maharaj. He said, Swami Chindananda, he's smoking. And Tapovan Maharaj said, more than the outer smoke, I am bothered about the inner fire in him. Outer smoke will take care of itself in time. So Gurudev used to continue smoking. And he came down, started giving talks, and his smoking habit continued. But one day he decided, bas, enough is enough. I quit. This is not required from me anymore. Just drop it. That day he decided, drop it, over. See, in everybody's life, the force of habit is going to come. If you think about it, that Ratnakar, who was a dacoit, who used to loot and plunder and even sometimes kill, when he realized that he only has to pay the price for it, and he sat down, he was not even able to say Ram because his tendencies were so violent. So Naraji said, you say Mara, 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 Mara. Now you think that if he is sitting there quietly and he is saying Mara, 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 his mind is not going to play any tricks. There will be a lot of tricks the mind will play. There will be an impulse to go out and do something and loot something and kill somebody. But how that person, because he has woken up, He says, "Boss, this is over in my life. It's a past." That person uses that knowledge and that conviction to let go of the past habit. A habit will manifest. But how has that habit got created? Because of earlier action only and earlier choices. So today I have that choice. That's the power of Purushartha to transform. So if I understand this very clearly, that Vasana is unmanifest, it manifests as desire, and at desire level I must become alert and learn whether to give in to it or let go of it. Evolution happens faster. To give me that power of alertness is why all the sadhana is being done. So if I do japa every day, one mala of japa, what am I doing? It is not simply mechanically repeating a mantra. Every time I am repeating the mantra, I am very alert. And every time the mind wanders, I bring it back. So I am improving my alertness. So next time a desire arises in my mind, I am alert. Oh, this is the desire. I don't habitually give in to it. Whether it is japa or puja or meditation or upvas or any particular vrat you do, that 1 year I will not eat chocolate. Now what is going to happen? Impulse for eating chocolate is going to arise. It is not going to happen that for 1 year I am not going to think only about chocolate. More thoughts will come. More chocolates will also come. Yeah. Then I learn how to let go. He's saying, okay, 1 year, I have decided for this reason I have decided. If that reason is strong enough and I am convinced, I'll let it go. But if reason is weak, I want to impress somebody or I just want to show how strong I am, then it will not last for a long time. That even after 1 year I may manage somehow by willpower, but that whole tendency will rebound more stronger. So it depends on how I handle it. That's where we spoke about Shama. In Shama we have spoken about suppression versus sublimation. So now this is about Vasana. That Vasana is unmanifest. It will manifest as desire, then thoughts and emotions, action, result, Vasana. This cycle will go on. So 3 bodies we saw. Now, 1 minute. In this, the body, mind and intellect, generally we find that they are not integrated. Body is in one place, mind is another place, intellect is sometimes sleeping. They are different places. That split of the personality is what is called disintegration, which is what takes away our energies. And why this split happens? This split happens many times because of our vasanas. Our existing knowledge and our past vasana, they clash. So I may know that honesty is very, very important. I may value that today. But my impression of the past is such that it makes me give in to some immediate gratification. Now there will be a clash. One part of the personality will say, do this. Another part will say, don't do this. And constantly this clash keeps happening. In this case, it is a valid and important clash, and I need to ensure that I stick to my knowledge. Slowly the personality will become integrated. In many other cases, it is just a lack of being in one place. So I am not able to function very efficiently. Like my senses, I don't have control. So even though I know that I must sleep, body is demanding sleep, but the mind will say, no, let me keep up, let me do some browsing, or let me finish this work, or some pressure will be there in the head. Where I could actually just go to sleep, give the body enough rest, get up next day morning and do. This conflict between body, mind, intellect comes because of vasana pressure. And that's why if we reduce the vasana pressure, body, mind, intellect becomes integrated. And only an integrated body, mind and intellect can sit in meditation and know the truth. The attention of body, mind, intellect can be turned towards the self only if the vasana pressure reduces. So the entire scheme of realization in Vedanta is like this. I must first learn to reduce my vasana pressure. If vasana pressure reduces, my BMI will become integrated. If BMI becomes integrated, I will be able to sit quietly. When I sit quietly and contemplate on the self, Om, that ignorance that I have about it will go away. This is the scheme. If this is very clear to me, then I start finding out where I am and keep moving. And in this, nobody can do anything. They may only be facilitators to give me some certain right environments and inputs. Nothing else they can do. It is I who have to do each and everything by myself. So how to reduce the vasana pressure? When we do selfless work. So 4 points to do to reduce vasana pressure. I don't know if I did this earlier. Did we do this earlier?
No.
Study, spiritual practice, self-control, and seva. 4 points. Seva or service. So study is swadhyay. Every day or in a week, for some time, specifically study spiritual literature, empower the buddhi with clarity in thinking. Because as we saw, knowledge is very important to use my purushartha effectively now. Otherwise it won't happen. Spiritual practice or sadhana. Sadhana is train the mind to become quiet consciously. Use any practice, pranayam, japa, puja, meditation, chakra, whatever you like. But consciously make the mind quiet. And this has to be done regularly. Swadhyaya and sadhana on a daily basis, if I am able to do, I am increasing my sattva guna, which is my quality of vasana is changing, and I am reducing my quantity. Now let go. Let the desires keep going. Then comes sanyam, self-control. No place here, so I'm just writing it like that. S-A-M-Y-A-M. Oh. Everybody kept seeing here, so I thought it is here. Sanyam, not 20 minutes in a day, as much as one can live in self-control, where I enjoy as a master. I don't enjoy as a victim, no compulsive enjoyment, no enjoyment where I am forced by my own impulses, where I have no control. That is Sanyam. As much as I live in Sanyam, that much sense mastery I have, mind mastery I have. Easier it is for me to control the mind. And Seva. Seva is with the bhav. Seva is not extra activity which I go and do some help to somebody. That also can be. But whatever I am doing, I do it with the bhav of producing more than what we consume, giving more than what we take. With the attitude of genuinely serving. I don't need anything, I serve. If these 4 I am able to do regularly, my vasana pressure will reduce, that mind and intellect will become quieter, and I will be able to contemplate. And that's the way to exit this ignorance cycle.
Swamiji, this ignorance vasanas, tendencies has been given in the center, vasanas. That these tendencies belongs to a particular birth, I mean individual particular birth that has to be fructified in this birth only, or total vasanas?
Total.
This is total.
Total.
At any moment we are
Total in the sense, what is yes, for this birth, what is to get exhausted, plus what is getting added because in this birth I am adding, that tendency is that. The total Sanchit karma is not being indicated here because that is not required in this context. So it is of no use.
Sanchit karma and vasana is said?
When we come to Sanchit karma, I will explain. See, so the point here is that if I do these spiritual practices, etc., mind becomes integrated. That's the way to destroy this ignorance, which is the causal body. And when the causal body is destroyed, it is not that my gross body, etc., will get destroyed. No. Whatever is to happen, it will continue to happen, but I am completely aware of my own nature as happiness. So there is no dependence on anything outside. The last part of Tattvabodh will speak about this, the qualities of a Jivan Mukta. Who is a realized person? That time we will take more details. For now, this much is enough about the three bodies. We will come back to the three states now.
Swamiji, you were going to explain the connection between ignorance and vasana. What is it?
Yeah. So I was saying that in the Tattvabodh, the vasanas are not mentioned. So right now we have understood about the vasana. And in this BMI chart, the ignorance is not indicated. It is implied by the vasana word. Right. So ignorance of the self is common to all of us. But because of that ignorance, when I feel incomplete, I have certain impressions in my mind because of which I seek completeness outside. And those impressions are the vasanas which are different for different people. Which is what we saw in the causal body explanation. That ignorance is common to all, but impressions are different for different people because at different points in time, people have used their free will differently. Like the first human birth, I start getting the free will. Not everybody uses the free will. So they will create their own different vasanas, and then according to that their life will flow. So ignorance is the cause of the vasanas also. That is one connection. And the vasanas are different for everybody, but ignorance is the same. And third, till I do not reduce the vasana pressure, I do not get the capacity to remove ignorance. One of the main reasons why, even though we study knowledge, even though we study Vedanta and we get the knowledge, we don't experience the transformation is because the vasana is in between. Knowledge comes, ignorance is here as though vasana is in between. So my vasana doesn't allow the knowledge to filter through and destroy that ignorance. Not possible only. That's why the vasana pressure has to reduce. And so people who study Vedanta only as a philosophy and do not do these four aspects, it is not possible to understand, to experience the self. And then if we say, no, Vedanta is very dry, or Vedanta is very theoretical, that's not the fault of Vedanta. That is because I have chosen only to study. I am not doing sadhana, I am not doing seva, I am not doing this sanyam, and I live the way I want to live. Then the knowledge is not going to get the, we are not going to get the benefit of that knowledge. So in fact, one of the main things that should happen when we study Vedanta is, I must start living, because what I can do immediately is this. I can start inculcating seva bhav, I can start living in sanyam, I can start putting 10-20 minutes aside in a day to quieten my mind up. I have to start doing that. And that's why people who say that I will only study, I don't want to do anything. See, if one is not able to do a puja, there is no problem. Vedanta is not saying everybody has to sit and do a ritual and a puja. You find some other method of quietening the mind down. Don't say I will go and sit in the nature and I feel very quiet. No problem. You may feel quiet, you may use that as a support for some time, but the support should be such that after some time you are able to withdraw your senses. As long as I am seeing anything outside, my attention is out only. I should be able to withdraw my senses and make the mind quiet. That is very important. For that you use any method. Any visualization or whatever method, breath observation, anything. And there are many simple methods which are available, which one can do, whereby one can quieten the mind. So we can do, let us say, last 10 minutes of every session we will do either breath observation or mental visualization, something we will learn. So that way at least one can start practicing that at home, and you can learn to quieten down the mind. So that's the connection between ignorance and vasana. That if the vasana is very strong, see the vasana also being rajasic and tamasic, awareness of ignorance also will not be there. That I have something called ignorance also will not be known. And even if I know it by some method, the steps I take to eradicate it will not be effective. So I need to remove that vasana pressure, reduce that vasana pressure. So that's the connection. Now this is about the three bodies. Now we come to the two states which we have seen, waking and the dream. Now in the waking, in this BMI chart, body, mind and intellect, they are made up of 5 elements. And we will see those about 5 elements when we speak about creation. But right now to understand that these 5 elements by themselves are inert. So that which is inert, how does that get sentiency? That's a big problem even in science. Even today science is wondering about that, and they are trying to create those same conditions when life came into being. And they are trying, let that keep happening, that's fine. But problem of consciousness is there, that how does the inert become conscious? So that's where in Vedanta we understand that Om, which is the self, reflects in the subtle body, which is the mind and the intellect, and that becomes sentient. That mind and intellect further identifies with the gross body, and the body becomes alive. That's a theory in Vedanta. That by itself the mind intellect cannot feel and think. By itself the body cannot perceive. So PFT is perceive, feel and think. By itself body cannot perceive, mind can't feel, intellect can't think. Om, when it appears into that subtle body, mind and intellect especially, that mind and intellect which is enlivened is then identifying with the body, and body becomes enlivened. Like they remember that example of the electricity and the bulb. The electricity has to flow through that wire and then get into the bulb through that filament, and then the light will happen. By itself bulb can't give light, and by itself electricity also can't give light. So Om by itself nothing happens, there is no creation. And the creation by itself is inert. But if these two come together, then there is sentiency, then there is life. And so the difference between us and the so-called inert things is the mind and the intellect. If you introduce mind and intellect in this table, it will also start responding to life as you and I respond. So mind and intellect has the capacity to reflect consciousness as life, which further identifies with the body. And so that sentient entity is called perceiver, feeler, thinker. Now who is the perceiver? Om, identified with the BMI, is called as the perceiver. Is the body the perceiver? No. Body is the instrument or equipment. Who is the perceiver? Om. This theory of reflection in Vedanta is called Tattvabodh. Consciousness reflecting in the body, mind, intellect takes up an identity called perceiver, feeler, thinker. And that example is of the sun up there reflects in a bucket of water. there is a reflection of sun that I see, then that water becomes as though bright. In many buckets of water, there will be different reflections of the sun. Same way, if each of us is like a bucket of water, consciousness is like the sun, all of us have an identity of Mr. So and so. From where did that identity come? That identity is nothing but that unconditioned Om appearing conditioned in the body, mind, intellect. Like the sun is huge, but the reflection appears small. Has the sun become that? No, it's only appearing as a small reflection depending on the size of that the bucket or the lake, whatever it is. So in that same way, there is a pure consciousness, that is Om, which reflects in the body, becomes a perceiver. So in the waking state, what you saw about, that waking state is when through the senses I am interacting with the objects in the world. That state is called as the waking state, in which there is the body, mind, intellect, all the three are active. The ego of that waking state is called as what? Vishwa. That Vishwa is, in this BMI chart, where is Vishwa?
B.
BMI or PFT? Which? So it should be only P, the perceiver. That Vishwa is perceiver, which is nothing but, if you read the Tattvabodh, let's read that waking state again, then you will understand. Very simple it is. जागृत अवस्था का श्रोत्रादि ज्ञानेन्द्रियैः शब्दादि विषयैश्च ज्ञायते इति या सा जागृत अवस्था स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी आत्मा विश्व इति उच्यते. See the last line. स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी. The ego identified with the gross body is called as Vishwa. So who is called Vishwa in this BMI chart? P, perceiver. If you see this Sanskrit, now let me do a small quiz. Okay. Atma is indicated by which word? Om. Sthula Sharira is indicated by which alphabet?
Body.
B. Sushma Sharira is indicated by M and I. Causal body or Karan Sharira? Vasana. Vishwa? Perceiver. Taijasa?
Feeler.
What is Taijasa? Ego identified with the subtle body or the dream state is called as
Dream state.
Tejas. Right? So particularly it is F. See, in the waking state, because the body, mind, intellect all are active, one can also say that the Vishwa is actually PFT. Because feeling is happening in waking state. Thinking also is happening. So all the three, PFT is the waking state ego, which is called as the Vishwa. That's the complete understanding. Simpler understanding, just to understand that with the body it is identified, so we say it as a perceiver. But feeling and thinking also is happening. So it is P, F and T. In the dream state, what is the definition of dream state? Whatever we have collected in the waking state, those impressions are mixed up and they are a part of it gets projected. Buddhi is not active there. So in the dream state, what is available to us? Is the body in BMI, what is available?
Only the mind.
Only the mind. Body is there, but we are not aware of it. Intellect is there, it is dormant. Predominantly it is only the mind. And so the ego of that state, that is called as Tejas. Why? Because without the sense organs also it is able to see. There is perception. So in what light does it see? So that is called Tejas. So Sukshma Sharira Abhimani Atma Tejasa Uchyate. See, the word Atma is very, very important. This entire discovery is happening of the Atma, that who am I. So who is this P is nothing but conditioned expression of Om. Who is the feeler? Om. Who is the thinker? Om. Just that it is identified with the particular body going through a specific state, so it is assuming a smaller, as though limited identity. But actually it is not limited. It is unlimited self. And that's what we want to arrive at. That this ego who is going through this waking experience is actually consciousness. Just identified with this one equipment, we feel I am so and so, and it is so real. I am unlimited consciousness even now. So dream state Atma is called as the Tejasa, which is the feeler mainly. Now we come to the deep sleep state. Now one point here to understand, last time I spoke about this subtle body being the example or the proof for reincarnation.
What happens?
And this impression, these thoughts, impressions, etc., they get carried forward. And so the child prodigies also are examples of that. So one of the theories has been that they are actually trained quite well in their childhood. That is why they are expressing that talent. But that is applicable maybe in few cases. There are many, many more cases of people who have not been trained, but who show such natural inclination to a specific field. And if we do not believe in cause and effect, then how did that happen? There are many more examples actually of those children who are child prodigies who have not got trained. And suppose even if we take the example of training, why is it that only that child is picking that up? If the intensity of training, the same training is given to, let us say, 4 children, why only that child is able to pick up so much? There has to be some cause for it. So the subtle body actually is carrying forward the impressions of the past. And that's how the inclination is towards that particular field. Now we come to the deep sleep state. अथ सुषुप्ति अवस्था का अहम किमपि न जानामि सुखेन मया निद्रा अनुभूयते इति सुषुप्ति अवस्था. Sorry, it has to be सुषुप्ति अवस्था. इति सुषुप्ति अवस्था कारण शरीर अभिमानी आत्मा प्राज्ञा इति उच्यते. This deep sleep is a very fascinating idea. You know, till I came to Vedanta, I had no idea that there is something called deep sleep. Vedanta introduces this deep sleep also to us. Even this concept of mind and intellect, that with the intellect I can control the mind, no idea. In one way it's very good because Vedanta makes me aware of my own personality. And then of course the reality at a higher level also. So what is this deep sleep? Aham kimapi na janami, I did not know anything. So it is a dreamless sleep where there is ignorance, I don't know. So if the waking state, the B is very active, in the dream state, M is very active, in the deep sleep state, I is active, ignorance. Here it is not written ignorance. Everything else is dormant. Body, mind, intellect, vasana, all dormant. So I do not know anything because the modes of perception are BMI, they are dormant. If the BMI is dormant, how will I experience anything? And that's what happens in deep sleep. I am closest to the self. The only thing dividing me and the self at that point is the ignorance. I don't know. So the ego, which is otherwise manifesting in the waking and dream, has become completely dormant. It is like a child who is there, who is sleeping, and the child has been covered by a whatever, some blanket or something. So all the mischief of the child, everything is dormant. And even the most notorious and mischievous child looks so sweet when he is sleeping. But the fellow gets up, finished. The whole roof will be down. The same thing in our mind. That mischief-making entity, BMI, is dormant. So everybody looks so blissful in sleep. How much ever their tension may be, in sleep they feel very blissful. Because the mischief-making entity is not there. BMI is dormant. And nor is the realization of the self. So ignorance is there at that time. That's why it says, Aham kimapi na janami. I didn't know anything. And how does one know that ignorance was there? In that state of deep sleep, I am not able to be aware of it. Because buddhi is not there. Just like in dream, many times I don't know that I am in dream. Sometimes we come to know in the in-between state where I have not fully woken up also and I am not fully into the dream, where buddhi has become little active, then I know that dreaming is happening. But that buddhi is not there only in the deep sleep. How do I know that I don't know? In the deep sleep I will never know that. And it is not possible, don't try. Because then you will not remain deep sleep. But when I wake up, then I say, I slept like a log. I did not know anything. My first talk happened, no? Does God exist? People felt that. I slept like a log, I didn't know anything.
It was little heavy. That first talk was
I know, it was meant only for atheists. If there was one atheist sitting there, that guy would have got it. It was complete atheist, aimed only at the atheist. I did not want to aim it at a believer. It was aimed completely only at the atheist, giving all, because those are all the arguments that they give. And it was heavy, but that doesn't matter.
purely based on scientific.
Yeah, because that's the way people say, I believe in science, I don't believe in God, because their understanding of God is some fellow sitting up there controlling everything. And whatever religion has spoken about that God, they don't understand only God is a state of consciousness, because for ages every religion has been talking about God only as a person, an entity. So anyway, so that deep sleep is where I do not know anything, and by inference when I wake up, I come to understand that, oh, I didn't know anything, no dream also. In today's context, they call it as power nap. I had power nap, 20 minutes power nap. Go to sleep, go to deep sleep and come back. Whatever that means. Consciously to invoke deep sleep, possible. If I learn to quieten my mind consciously, then I can get into deep sleep state. And that's why some yogis, they get into the deep sleep state by will. They consciously learn to withdraw. So they need very less time to sleep. 4 hours, 3 hours is enough for them. Because in deep sleep what happens, because BMI are completely dormant, there is a lot of what we call rejuvenation happening for the BMI. The rest period, that's the best period for the BMI. Even the memory gets reorganized and so many things happen. And that's why they say that if you do not get enough deep sleep, memory loss starts happening, especially short-term memory loss. We can't remember certain things. We start mixing up facts. Many of those confusions happen because I didn't get enough deep sleep. So in the state of deep sleep, I don't know anything, number one. In the state of deep sleep, the BMI is completely dormant. It is the state of deep sleep which refreshes, rejuvenates the person. And he says, Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. I slept happily. What is that happiness here? Happiness there is the absence of all agitations. It is what we call negative bliss. Negative bliss does not mean something which is bad or harmful, but it means that all the factors of agitation are negative. They are not there. So it's not a positive experience of happiness within. But because there is no reason for agitation, person is happy. That entity, so Sukhena Maya Nidra Anubhoyate iti Sushupti Avastha. That state is called as Sushupti Avastha. And it is the state which is we call as the seed state. This is very important to understand because in the seed state, just like a tree is, the tree is fully there in the seed. And when that seed is sown in the soil, it gets the right environment, it will manifest. The whole tree will come out. Where was that tree? In that seed. In what form? Unmanifest form or potential form, whatever you call it. Then it starts manifesting. Same way, we exist with our vasanas, with BMI being dormant in that state. And that is the seed, that's the causal body actually. So causal body, if you want to experience, deep sleep is the state. Subtle body, if you want to experience exclusively, then dream is the state. Gross body, if you want to experience exclusively, then it is waking. All the three bodies are there in all three states, but exclusive experience of one happens in one state.
But the deep sleep state is devoid of any experience. And how do you experience causal body?
Experience causal body, as I said, by inference. At that point in time, I will not be able to experience, but I can infer that that was causal body. When I wake up, I infer that, oh, I didn't know anything, so, my BMI was dormant, so that is a causal state actually.
So then how does it give you an experience of your vasanas? Because actually you not experience.
You cannot experience vasana. That's why I clarified in the beginning that vasanas can never be experienced directly. They will only be experienced indirectly through the desire in the buddhi.
So then when you say get the experience, inferential experience of the this causal body, what do you mean by that?
By that I will only mean that I can infer that even in the absence of everything I was happy, so I don't need anything to become happy actually.
So it's the experience of the bliss. The inferential experience of the bliss.
You infer that the BMI was dormant. So two important implications of deep sleep are these. Number one, that BMI was dormant, yet I was, meaning I am different from the BMI. Second one, objects were not there, and yet I was happy. Which means I don't need objects to become happy.
Swami, logically using the word ignorance, being closest to myself, that doesn't make sense. So, I'm trying to understand, is a better word being unaware? Because ignorance actually signifies no knowledge whatsoever.
Correct. And there is no knowledge in that state. So you can use unaware, that is no problem. Actually, being unaware is what ignorance is. No, there is no separate ignorance and nothing else.
I mean, ignorance could be the absolute state. Unaware is because you are partially thinking, you are not really paying attention to it. You have the knowledge, except that you are, for a better word, systems are down, so you are not.
No, but that knowledge is not the self-knowledge that you have. And systems are down not with that self-knowledge. Because if self-knowledge arises, the system, even if it is down, there is no problem. Yeah. So yes, technically speaking, we say that ignorance, you are closest to the self, and in that state you are ignorant because all the equipments are unmanifest. They are dormant.
When we say that in the Sushupti Avastha, only ignorance is there. That means ignorance of myself was there. Then how do I feel so wonderful when I get up in good deep sleep?
Because the BMI got refreshed. That's why you feel wonderful, not because of ignorance. Why we feel good? Because the body got relaxed. The mind which is continuously chattering got a rest. Buddhi became more sharp in that. So when I get up, I feel more rejuvenated at the body level. It's not because of ignorance that I am feeling good. The byproduct of this state is relaxation, rejuvenation.
So because of byproduct I feel.
And that is very important also for that BMI actually. If this deep sleep state is not there, no, absolute chaos in our personality, complete. Just imagine, dream itself can create chaos. If I do not get enough dreams and my mind doesn't empty out the impression it is collected, that itself will create enough chaos. And if deep sleep is not there, we can't function only, because the body will not get rejuvenated. Because all of us know that when the mind is active, a part of the body also is active. So if you see psychology, it will tell you that there is rapid eye movement happening, and then there is REM sleep and there is non-REM sleep. The non-REM sleep in some ways is leading to that deep sleep state. If that REM sleep only happens, that's why we feel sometimes very tired even after sleeping for 8-10 hours, because too much of REM sleep has happened. Deep sleep did not happen enough. I am exhausted. So the rejuvenation is not because of ignorance. That saying, no, ignorance is bliss, is a myth in some ways. Our Guruji says ignorance is not bliss, it is only blisters. It keeps creating disturbance only. Ignorance can have no other, it is not very positive state. Absence of knowledge it is. Right, so the Atma of this state, Atma identified with this deep sleep state, Karana Sharir Abhimani Atma Prajna iti uchyate, is called Prajna. Prajna means one who doesn't know anything. Agnya, Gnya means knowledge. Means without knowledge. And Pra, if you add, means specialized in absence of knowledge. Meaning, one who is a specialist in ignorance is called Prajna. Some people do that, you know. In Sanskrit language, if you don't write properly, Prajna, so that A ki matra which is in Gnya, if you shift it earlier, will become Prajna. And they make that mistake. Like how causal body, they make it as casual body. Like that they make Prajna into Prajna. So Prajna means the wisdom, intuitive knowledge, and Prajna means completely ignorant. Totally opposite meaning it will get. Now who is this deep sleeper? See, all of them are Om. But if the BMI is dormant, who is experiencing this? So one point to understand here, a little subtle point, is that the normal faculties of the body, mind, intellect, they all are dormant. So the registering part, which only registers the information of the presence and absence, that part remains. The analyzing part, the decision making part, the feeling part, all that is gone, dormant. But the registering part, which just registers, so it registers that there is nothing else here, there is no experience. That only that registering part remains. You will see that earlier as you go ahead, when we speak about evolution and 5 elements and the creation of subtle body, etc. Again, there it will come. Man, Buddhi, Chitta and Ahankar. So mind is emotion, Chitta, intellect is the thoughts and decision making. Chitta is the memory which registers. And Ahankar is the ego, I. So a small part of this I and this Chitta, ego and memory, which only registers, that remains. And that entity is called as Prajna. Because consciousness by itself doesn't do anything. And if we say body and mind and intellect all have become dormant, then who knows the absence? To know the absence of everything, there should be a presence or not. The first person who comes into the class, what the person says? Nobody has come. To say that nobody has come, somebody has to be there or not. That entity in me, which only registers present, it does not do anything else. Its job is only to register. That entity, which is the most basic entity, remains, which is called as prajna. It is empowered by consciousness only. Hence, these three states a person goes through: waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. Now, what is important to understand here is each state is excluding the other two. I am not taking example of some in-between states. Those also exist between waking and dreaming, between dreaming and deep sleep. Those states exist. That depends on how I get into sleep, how I get out of sleep, all that. And that is not required for our understanding. For us, what is important to understand is the Atma only is going through the three states: waking, dream and deep sleep. The ego of each state is different. So if you say that in the waking state, the Vishwa, in this BMI chart, where is the Vishwa? Perceiver, feeler, thinker. All the three, technically all the three. Taijasa is feeler. Where is Prajna? No, that Vasana is also dormant in that state. Prajna, is it there on this chart? Not there. So all you have to say is Prajna is the entity which experiences the absence of BMI and PFT. That is Prajna. That entity which registers the absence of this is not indicated on the chart here, but that's the entity which is Prajna, which is nothing but that Om only, manifesting through that entity.
This was absence of BMI.
Register the absence of BMI, PFT. Yeah.
But it is still there. The
It is there. That subtle form is there.
Is there.
Yeah.
That connected with the chitta.
Correct. Correct. Last point for today is OET is object, emotion and thought. So in Vedanta, when we say world, it means all the three. Anything that is other than I is called as the world. So I is the PFT, BMI is my equipment, OET is the world. So technically speaking, even BMI is a part of the world, because I experience the body, mind and intellect. So BMI is an equipment that I have. So apart from this PFT, this BMI and OET, they all are a part of the world. They are objectified. The object, emotions and thoughts. So in simple way to understand, object, emotions and thought is the field of experience. Perceiver, feeler and thinker is the experiencer, and BMI is the equipment of experience. So equipment of experience is BMI, experiencer is PFT, and OET is the field of experience. And the variety of experiences comes from V, Vasana. And last is Om, is the illuminer of all this. Of all the experiences and the experiencer, both. That is the Om. So these three states that we have seen, why we have seen? One is to understand that the ego going through all the three states, even right now, is nothing but Om. Atma only is going through as the Vishwa, Taijasa and Prajna. So if I can step back, considering myself as that Om which is the Sakshi, that waking state comes, goes, dream comes, goes, deep sleep comes, goes. The ego of all the three are different. Waking ego is different, dream ego is different, deep sleep ego is different. But what is that one entity which experiences all the three? That is the Atma. So waking excludes the other two, dream excludes the other two, deep sleep excludes the other two. And yet how do I know all the three? Actually one common entity which is there in all the three. Otherwise how will I know? If the waking is different, ego is different in dream and different in the deep sleep, how do I know? That common entity is the Atma, which is Om, which is not affected by waking, dream or deep sleep. So the practice of Sakshi Bhav is based on this sadhana, this understanding that waking, dream, deep sleep, they come and they go. I am the Sakshi and my nature is the Atma. Otherwise many places the Sakshi is the intellect. Intellect cannot be the Sakshi. Intellect itself is a object of my consciousness. I am aware of my thoughts and feelings. No? I am aware of my body and its sense perceptions. So I am different from these. So the understanding of these three states is for that purpose. Now the same three states and three bodies will be explained in another form through 5 koshas that we will take up next week. And we will also take up Atma, the understanding of what is this Atma. What is Atma? Other than 3 bodies, other than 3 states, beyond 5 sheets, of the nature of Satchit Anand, that which is called as the good.
We studied in gross body and subtle body that it is achieved due to merits of the past. Now we also discussed that when evolution is taking place in the first human level, I'm a little confused about what merits.
So that merit of the past is after first human birth. First human birth doesn't come because of merit of the past, it comes because of natural push of evolution. That's all.
It's not that otherwise because you done good otherwise you get a human birth. So there is no way to evolve in the first stage.
There is no way to evolve consciously to first human birth. That's what is the understanding that the scriptures tell us, that till the first human birth, because the buddhi is not there, you cannot put effort consciously to evolve. Like a fish cannot become a reptile by evolution, by choice. It will become only by nature's push.
So when we take the first human birth, at that point do we have a free will to...
Yes. That's when my free will starts. Whether I am aware of it or not doesn't matter, but that's when the free will starts. And from there my karma account also starts. And this whole cycle, impression to impression, from there it starts. And because the force of habit is there, the senses are still extrovert. Awareness that I have a buddhi, I can make a choice is not very strong. So a person acts by the force of habit, continues to live in an animalistic way for some time. That's where one has built up one's karma and keeps getting evolved. Slowly that thing happens where a person becomes aware, oh, I have this choice. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru